Okay, welcome to the Compassionate Capitalist podcast and video for those that are watching today. And, if you've been tuning in, if you're a compassionate capitalist, if you're somebody that invests the resources, knowledge, wisdom, and money that you have into entrepreneurial endeavors to bring innovation to the market, create jobs, and create wealth, part and parcel within that is a social aspect. And when I met my guest today, Dr. Laquita Blockson, just say wave for everybody that is watching right now. I'm going to introduce her officially here in a second. I was like, this is really interesting. This is sort of aligned with what I talk about within compassionate capitalism, but it's a whole nother level of consciousness in how you are applying those resources that you have, or the entrepreneurs themselves and their passion, because that's the other side of compassionate capitalism, right? Because so you got capitalism, that's the making of money, buying and selling of things and making money in the process of doing it. But then there's the compassion side, which is using that money in ways that benefit society better than just buying and selling stock and buying and selling real estate. And so, but then there's also this element that is the passion of an entrepreneur, the passion of a company. And what is it that they're so committed to that they're going to put their blood, sweat, and tears into to make happen, to be a change maker, which is a term that you might be hearing more often today. And so how does that kind of come together with this? Because we have a lot of problems in our society that we have done a spotlight on as a result of our environmental issues that are going on, as a result of this pandemic that shows our economic disparity, the lack of access to healthcare and preventative healthcare for a lot of people, the challenges that we have in delivering education into rural environments and poor communities, and just so much that many of us, and Dr. Blockson is going to tell you quite passionately here in just a minute, many of us have been aware of, but just kind of, it didn't affect me personally, so what am I going to do about it? Well, times have changed, and that's the reason why we are having this podcast today, because I want to use my opportunity, my platform to amplify that there are these problems, and there are really smart people that are coming together to solve these problems in very innovative ways that create an opportunity to not only make money in it as a business or in a deliverer of innovation as a capitalist, but also to have the social impact that says that, and this is part of what we'll be talking about, because I'm a big believer of this, that anybody that really, really understands economics and business understands that you cannot operate isolated. You are integrated into your communities and into society, and the problems that plague society will ultimately impact your business, as we see right now in this pandemic, if you choose to continue to ignore these problems and not be a part of solving them. So that's my passion for this particular show, and why I have this really outstanding guest with me today. So let me make it official so you know why she's so outstanding. Dr. Laquita Blockson is the founding faculty director of Social Innovation Graduate Program at the Agnes Scott. This is a master's in social innovation program, and she's going to talk. It's really quite unique in that the fact that she's got this program going over there. So let me just say this also about her. So she is an organizational effectiveness scholar who conducts research on minority-owned businesses, women in business and management, entrepreneurial ethics, and urban and economic development. She was a co-investigator in an Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation funded study regarding the success and growth factors of African-American-led entrepreneurial ventures, and has contributed to the National Science Foundation funded studies on social innovation and social venturing. Before joining the Agnes Scott faculty, she taught at Florida International University, the University of Northern Iowa, and the College of Charleston. Dr. Blockson also serves as a research fellow with Rutgers Business School Center for Urban Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, Her teaching areas include social innovation, entrepreneurship principles, business and society, business ethics, strategy management, nonprofit management, philanthropy, and project management. Wow, that's a mouthful. And she is highly qualified to be talking with me about this today. So welcome officially, Dr. Blockson. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you, Ms. Rands. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. So clearly you are just shrouded with experience and knowledge in this space. So tell our listening audience, how did you come to be a part of this Agnes Scott program, and a little bit of the history of Agnes Scott for those of ours. I mean, everybody in Atlanta knows who Agnes Scott is in probably the Southeast, but talk about, because Agnes Scott in and of itself has a very storied history of creating women leaders. So talk a little bit about that as well.
Absolutely. So want to just say that Agnes Scott College, yes, it has a rich history of developing and educating women from all backgrounds and experiences and the like to be effective global leaders and engaging in those global challenges of today. And I'm very happy to say that Agnes Scott College, for the third year in a row, was noted to be by U.S. News and World Report as being the most innovative, #1 innovative liberal arts institution in the country. So I'm really excited about that. So
I did not know that. That's good news.
So third year in a row. So we just received that designation a few weeks ago. So innovation, innovative thinking, and entrepreneurial thinking, for that matter, is baked into the work that we do at the undergraduate level and also with our newer graduate programs. The Social Innovation Program, which I lead, is in its second year. We just started with the first cohort in fall 2019. And this program was designed with a lot of what Agnes Scott's mission in mind. As you can imagine, Agnes Scott College, as a women's college, as a very entrepreneurial thinking college, is one where we want to be able to embrace the liberal arts tradition and to be able to bring a number of different theoretical and disciplinary lenses to the problems and the challenges that our students face, and then when preparing them for their careers, the challenges they're going to face as professionals once they leave campus. And so the Social Innovation Program uses that liberal arts lens in a very, very thoughtful manner. So students are engaged in entrepreneurial thinking and design thinking and all the different lenses that we use within business and engineering and design and those disciplines, but it's also infused in the natural sciences and the social sciences in particular. So those angles and those lenses, theoretical and philosophical lenses, are applied as well. So students get a chance to really explore what constitutes a social problem in the first place, and how can using social innovation as a mechanism, how can social innovation as a mechanism allow for some of these otherwise very intractable social problems, such as poverty, such as urban decay, or health disparities, or education disparities. How can we use entrepreneurship, and how can we use design thinking and opportunity recognition to create organizations and ventures that produce goods and services and processes that can help address some of these issues?
Okay, so yeah, so I think you were telling me before. So this was like a special program that they reached out to you to help them put together, and then hired you to come in and actually run it, right? Because
exactly, yes, they did.
Were you down in Florida when you kind of got recruited away to go do this, or were you independent already?
Well, I was actually, yes, I was not in Georgia at the time. I just moved to Georgia at the point in time when this opportunity presented itself. So yes, the college reached out to me on a consultative basis to help craft the curriculum. So they recognized, given my scholarship, given the work that I've done, that I was, able to be able to provide that subject matter expertise. Sure. And because of Agnes Scott's mission and its rich history and the vision that it has for not just for its undergraduate programs and developing its students to be global leaders, but to also foster that within the graduate programs, that's something I could buy into. And I said, okay, yes, let me craft a program that would be befitting a campus like Agnes Scott College. So we definitely use, again, the liberal arts lens. So for your listeners who may not be aware, there are different campuses and universities across the country that offer social entrepreneurship or social innovation programs or coursework. Oftentimes those programs or courses are offered within a particular school, such as the School of Business, School of Engineering, School of Design, in some cases, School of Public Policy. But this is one of the few programs across the country we have at Agnes Scott that is not just in one particular lens or use one particular approach. We believe the interdisciplinary approach, the fact that students are taking sociology classes and taking courses in org theory and design thinking and philosophy and the like, as well as entrepreneurship classes, those are the classes I teach, and entrepreneurial finance, that they are getting a wealth of experiences and being exposed to a variety of theoretical and disciplinary and empirical approaches that can really help inform their thinking from a holistic manner.
Okay,
and
yeah.
So when I developed the program for the college, they were, I guess, very impressed. They asked me to apply to lead the program. So I applied and competed and was offered the position. So I've been the director for almost 18 months.
Very good. Okay. So one of the things that, I mean, we were talking earlier about, you know, the idea of social entrepreneurship or social innovation is not new to the people that have been trying to solve these problems for decades. It's something that, because of some of the issues that I highlighted earlier, has, you know, put a spotlight onto some of this. But I want to frame that and have you comment. I'm going to go, I went to the internet to get a definition, right? And so social innovation is defined as the process of developing and deploying effective solutions to challenging and often systemic, that's a big word that people have been hearing a lot lately, social and environmental issues in support of social progress. Social innovation is not the prerogative or privilege of any particular organization, form, or legal structure. And I thought that was interesting after you and I were talking about, you know, how to address this topic. And it's like there are nonprofits that are working on it. There are businesses that are seeing a benefit. It's kind of like when I've done things on conscious capitalism and how and entrepreneurs and organizations decide they have a social responsibility. So, you know, talk about the evolution of this, of people becoming aware, businesses becoming aware, and sort of what do you see as triggers, if there's any particular issue that has really said this is something that we need to focus on. They're kind of waking up and going, who's doing this? And then, of course, Agnes Scott is sitting there going, we are. So
great. Well, yes. So, and you provide a very comprehensive definition of social entrepreneurship, social innovation rather. And there are different definitions out there, but that's a very comprehensive one that you provided for our listeners today. And in that light, yes, there is no one particular organizational form that precludes social, you know, the application of social innovation thinking or approaches. So yes, nonprofits have been engaging in certain activities that would lend themselves well to social innovation practices for eons in that regard. Entrepreneurial ventures, those who are, you know, individual owners and their partners and the like, you know, who all want to make a change and want to be able to use, you know, the development of certain products or services for the commercial space or, you know, and target customers to be able to raise funds or generate profitability, that revenue that would allow for certain problems to be addressed. You know, there are individuals who've been doing that. And then, yes, we've had companies and corporations, particularly over the last 50 years or so, who have evolved over time to be able to appreciate whether it's the stakeholder approach, whether it's the idea of being able to uphold the social responsibility principles and practices and the like. So companies have been adopting over time and recognizing that one is, yeah, it may be the moral right thing or appropriate thing to do. and socially responsible thing to do in terms of being a neighbor of choice, but also recognizing that customers and investors and shareholders and the public at large and government bodies and legal bodies are now expecting and placing that demand on organizations to be more socially responsible, to be better stewards of the resources they have available to them and the like. And they recognize a lot of organizations across the various institutions are realizing that if they don't do certain things, they may be at their own peril. So the cool thing about with Agnes Scott is with our program, we're attracting a lot of individuals into our program. They're coming from a variety of different backgrounds and a lot of different experiences. Some who work or have worked in the nonprofit sector, some who've been business owners and now are trying to find ways to shift their business focus so that it can be more socially minded. Some who work in the corporate space now and they work within organizations or work in government agencies and they want to be able to affect change from within. So how can they speak a language and communicate ways and practices that companies and organizations can adopt to be socially responsible? And so we do that in our program. We provide those knowledge bases and skills and tools for our graduates to be able to do that.
Okay, so that segues well into, so we talked, the social innovation is sort of the organizational perspective on processes and solutions. And then you have, so like, what is a social entrepreneur? So these are kind of like the doers, I think. It's like, so a social entrepreneur, Google, definition, Investopedia, is a person who pursues novel applications that have potential to solve community-based problems. These individuals are willing to take on the risk and effort to create positive changes in society through their initiatives. So I think that leads into some of the things you were telling me about earlier about the difference of the kind of students, the ones that come with a passion, the ones that come to try to just want to figure out how's the best way to apply their knowledge and skills and stuff to something and look for problems. So some, they come from different perspectives. So talk a little bit about the variety of your students and then how you help them navigate, whether it's their problem, the company that's sending them's problem that they're trying to solve, or just in general, they're looking for to be a change maker that they can go out and be a part of an organization that's doing something that's interesting.
Absolutely. So we have students who they may have had from their lived experience, an interest in addressing a social issue. And that could be whether it's dealing with climate change or in some, or animal rights. We have a couple students who are dealing with, questions regarding animal rights. We have some students who are they're interested in finding ways to support various communities or people, whether it's in racial, in terms of racial ethnicity, or whether it's through gender identity and the like, being able to find ways to foster those communities, a number of different areas. And poverty is definitely a big one, and the different ways that poverty can be addressed. So we have a number of students who have different ideas of how they can address those different kinds of issues. So, and trying to find ways to either develop products or services that can appeal to the general public, that raises funds, and the revenue is used to be able to help solve these issues, and or in some cases, be able to be the vehicle through which some of these issues are addressed. For instance, with some ventures that they're creating or ventures they're working with and partnering with right now and guiding along the way, or some where they are trying to find ways to eradicate poverty or issues in terms of food, access to foodstuffs, or educational disparities, or disparities in education and equality and health disparities. So there are some students who are working with organizations that are doing that kind of work, and so they're partnering with them and they're learning from them and they're giving them guidance. And then there are others who are, again, they have ideas of their own, so they're using the coursework and the mentoring and the experiential opportunities that our program provides to allow them to be able to craft and launch those ventures. And the cool thing, just in case some of your listeners do not know, the cool thing is that now within the state of Georgia, particularly, beginning January 1st, those who want to launch an actual social venture or a benefit corporation can do so and have legal recognition for doing so. So previously, or at least, prior to January 1st, 2021 in the state of Georgia, by the way, that if you want to create a social venture where you can have a social purpose for why you're doing what you're doing, whether it's a product that actually addresses that need directly, or a product or service that can be sold to generate revenue to address the product, those venture owners and the like and founders did not have the luxury or the benefit or the privilege of being able to file or incorporate as a benefit corporation. Now starting January 1st in the state of Georgia, by the way, they will be able to do so. And there are 35 other states that do allow for that legal designation, which gives both investors or potential investors and funders and those involved with the venture the recognition and understanding that the work that's being done with that venture is a socially minded one. So the returns that they otherwise may receive on their investment may be lower in some cases than the returns they may receive if they were investing in a traditional venture.
Meaning their taxation on those returns.
There is some taxation. But from a legal standpoint, they recognize that any return on that investment may be lower overall. So if an investor, for instance, or an angel investor wanted to invest a certain amount of money into a social venture and seek a certain level of return after 5 years, they would understand and be willing to say that the return they would get on that certain amount of money for that social venture, they're willing to take a lower return on that investment than if they were to take that same amount of money and invest it in a traditional venture.
So it's sort of like formalizing this concept of the double bottom line.
And that is one mechanism to be able to allow that. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
well, because when we would talk to investors about like businesses that, are doing benefit, right? They're benefiting the economy, it'd be like, well, there's a double bottom line. There's the bottom line, that's the financial side of it. And then there's the bottom line here's their impact on the community. And so you get the double benefit. That's kind of how we had always used that concept, was that, you got two benefits within that, and you offset the financial one because they're reinvesting so much more of the money into the impact that they have rather than just pulling it out for the capitalist reasons.
Exactly. So yes, so that is a legal form, a legal means to be able to recognize and, the double bottom line that is otherwise embedded within a social venture or benefit corporation that otherwise may be assumed in a traditional organization, but may not necessarily be codified the same way.
Yeah. And now just then for, just so we kind of clarify, because you described a couple of different types of areas that this may be. So if, when somebody's on the outlet, they're going like, well, social this, social that, how does this, like, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, whatever, because they've just done traditional software company or something like that. So would it be like, for example, there's so I'm going to give you a couple of varieties of kinds of companies. Mm-hmm. And then you can say, yeah, that would be something that somebody might work on through our program. Or no, that's really not something like that. Okay. So say somebody was developing a software package that was providing wellness care through telemed to make sure that elderly are eating right. And because I know Medicare and Medicaid has been focusing on wellness versus just treating problems, trying to get us healthier and incenting doctors to do that way. And there's been a couple of different attempts to how do you automate that and make it affordable for doctors to do that. And so, so an application that was along those lines that is working towards that end. Now there's a profit motive on it, but it's also a wellness motive on it. And so that's one thing that maybe we'd have to say, well, so put that's sample A, to tweak it where it would be more within this, or that kind of, I don't know how broad the definition is. So then there's another organization that in the way they're making a consumer product and the way that they have designed to manufacture this, the it's a textile, and the textiles that they're using have a zero carbon impact when they use that. And therefore, when they're making a quality product that people want, but people may or may not buy it for that environmental reason. But then out of that, they're also going to set aside a certain amount that is going to benefit clean water in rural communities and things like that. So that's like B. And 3 would be a big company that might be trying to solve the digital divide by providing low orbiting Wi-Fi that you don't have to lay cables in order to get internet capacity to rural communities, because it's very expensive to lay cables, but you could put these things up that would connect and provide a blanket of coverage that would benefit third world countries that have struggled with this, but also our rural communities to be able to get access to telemed as well as distance learning and things like that. So those are A, B, and C. So one's a business, they're doing something else. C is this is just a profit motive that they might have, but they might be incented by the government to provide it for free into some of these communities. So as 3 examples, are they all totally in on social innovation and entrepreneurship? Or they do they fall within it or outside of it? Or talk a little bit about it from
they're hitting on different pieces of it.
Okay.
The 3 examples you provide in and of themselves do not comprise what would be your typical social venture. Your typical social venture is one where the focus and the mission of the venture is socially minded from the beginning, and using and appreciating entrepreneurial approaches and design thinking approaches, and using the tools that are available through business and entrepreneurship to, again, advance a social purpose. So there are organizations that are in the 3 examples you provided. They all, in various capacities or in certain elements or certain areas, are practicing social responsibility. And that's something we encourage highly and want all types of organizations, all 3 examples you provided, to continue to do and expand upon.
Social responsibility.
Yes, so in that regard, what we're talking about, social innovation and social entrepreneurship as a means through which to accomplish change making and social innovation, is, individuals who purposely and intently from the beginning of the venture's founding wants to be able to be able to fulfill a social purpose, and will find the means through entrepreneurship to do so. So we have some organizations, for instance, that may produce a product that, again, is sold to the general public that everyone wants. But they recognize, and the public understands, that, this product is being created, being created to provide the resources to support these types of different activities or to address a social issue. And then there's some organizations that will take it a step further and say, we're not only just providing a product that the public at large would like to, purchase and use or enjoy or whatever, but we have embedded within our practices in our organization ways that will also engage in social responsibility and social innovation. For instance, the people we hire. Who do we hire? Are we helping to address a social need by, for instance, hiring the chronically underemployed? Or are we employing formerly incarcerated felons who otherwise have a hard time trying to find, meaningful work and work that provides a living wage? So they may say, okay, we're crafting this product, we're providing this service, and the product and service that we're offering to the public, the people who are doing this or producing it are people who otherwise wouldn't be employable. So that's just an example.
Let me interrupt you on that if I could, because I just want to clarify, because I have had businesses come to me and their sole employee base is one of these communities. Like, there was a company that we raised capital for through our angel investor group that was making sterilized surgical packs, and the only people they hired were disabled and blind. And they got special funding from a venture capital group out of South Carolina, because they were employing 50 people or something to do these packs, and the way they had designed their production line enabled that, all that kind of stuff. But the term social entrepreneurship or social, that it wasn't a term that we used as part of that raising capital. But now it sounds like there's going to be money sources even actually look. I mean, that VC fund was doing it, even though they didn't define it like that. They were looking at that. And then that company was doing it out of the goodness of their heart, that was their purpose of the way they were doing this. And so they were there without having necessarily the label of what we're talking about today. So that sounds like what it would be in hindsight. Oh, it was a social innovation company.
That could be an example of one. You're right. And there are some criteria and some standards that B Labs have come up with that and B Corp has developed to say, like, if you want your venture to be a certified benefit corporation, and this is in particularly for those organizations or ventures that are in states that do not yet legally recognize a benefit corporation as a legal designation and registration, then yes, a company or a venture can use the rubric and the assessment tool, the impact assessment tool, to be able to assess to what degree its operations, its purpose, its mission, the products and services that it sells or provides to the public, to what degree does it meet certain criteria to then be able to be designated as a benefit corporation, a certified benefit corporation. So the example you just provided, that venture, because of who they hire and the practices they engage in, to be able to support, again, a group of individuals who otherwise may be difficult to seek, find work for themselves. Yes, and using that as a platform to provide economic vitality for the employees as well as within the community in which they are located and they serve. Yes, they would meet, those criteria, with some of those criteria within that benefit corporation impact assessment that would allow them to otherwise say, if they met the threshold and met the requirements through that assessment, they would be able to then promote themselves and put on their websites and materials and the like, saying that, yes, we are a certified benefit corporation because we have checked off these boxes. We have met these standards. We are accomplishing these things. And it's part of our mission, it's part of our operations, it's part of our organizational strategy and our vision for the future.
Okay, so that, I just had an aha moment. Benefit corporation is the way the government labels and recognizes social innovation entrepreneurship companies.
Correct.
Okay. That, I'm sorry that it took me that long to actually
get
those dots, but
yes.
that's the official sort of way that an organization will, the government the
IRS,
Secretary of State, the IRS,
exactly.
It's official. It's as official as an LLC or a C Corp or an S Corp or now it's a benefit corp. Because I've heard benefit corps all along, and and it had been but never really truly understood it as the designation for these social endeavors that we are discussing here today.
Right. So a company, a venture that either starts out and signs up, and registers through the Department of State and, state department, within their state and the IRS and all, and saying that, yes, they are registering as a B Corp versus an LLC versus a partnership, S Corp, C Corp, and the like, then yes. And these are the guidelines and, their board of directors and all and advisors, officially are agreeing to that, yes, this is a benefit corporation. We realize what roles we play in that regard, and we communicate that to potential investors so that they understand what kind of organization this is. So again, now benefit corporation from the legal standpoint is separate from, receiving B certification, which any organization or any venture, social venture, can apply for and receive that certification, which is again more like a norm and a standard versus a legal designation. Yep.
Well, it's like what you saw happening with organic, right? First it was clear that these people or these farmers were organic. And then all of a sudden it became the hot thing to enable everything organic. And then they had to come up with certifications to say, yeah, no, this stuff really is organic, and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So because nonprofits cannot receive venture, like shareholders, and, you know, and people go like, well, shouldn't they make some profit to cover their expenses? And so it's, instead of being a not-for-profit, but there's a difference between a nonprofit and then there's a not-for-profit. And so now a benefit corp is somebody that's making money, will give some back, but it's a way for them to be able to receive funds as if they were a regular entrepreneur innovative organization. You know, they can attract that without having to, you know, forego the nonprofit kind of
right.
thing.
So they're not a nonprofit, and
right.
so they're not tax exempt. And
right.
of course, just make sure your listeners also know that yes, nonprofits can generate revenue, and they can engage in revenue generating activities. It depends on the nature of those activities and for what those resources or those revenues are used for. Makes a distinction to what degree they're tax exempt or not, or what they have to pay taxes on. And of course, yes, so yes, nonprofits, unless a nonprofit organization has a for-profit entity that helps, whereas resources and revenue helps to fund the nonprofit, then yes, and that can work. And then yes, shareholders or investors can invest in the for-profit arm of a nonprofit organization. Well, yeah, so they're distinct entities where one feeds the other or helps to support the other. So yes, there are ways to be, of course you have to talk with your tax attorney to do this, but nonetheless, there are ways where that can be done, in general. But yes, you're correct. Nonprofits, they're not allowed to have any particular owner or shareholder or investor where the returns are then directed to any particular person or persons. They have to benefit the organization as a whole.
Okay. All right. So we have just a few more minutes left. Thank you for explaining all of that and, enlightening myself, because I'm sure there are definitely some investors and entrepreneurs that had some aha moments during that conversation. Anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share with folks about this? I also wanted, before we get off, I want to make sure people know that they can go to the Agnes Scott. It's Agnes Scott, AGNESSCOTT.edu. And then if you drill down under graduate studies and graduate programs, you'll find a social innovation as a program there. And in the show notes, if you're watching this or listening to this, there'll be a link to the program itself where you can request more information and learn about that and get access and have a conversation. I'm sure, Dr. Blockson, you would be happy to talk to folks as well if they have questions about being a patron or being a student in your program, right?
Absolutely. And so I do want to make sure everyone knows that our graduate programs at Agnes Scott College, are not just women only. So, the program is
thank you for clarifying that, because I was wondering about that.
Okay, so we do have men in our graduate programs, absolutely. So I want to let you know, so regardless of one's gender identity, can attend Agnes Scott College's graduate programs or postgraduate or extended programs, certificate programs that we offer. Only the undergraduate programs are for women only. So that's the first thing. Second thing I want to make sure people know is that the program that we offer for social innovation can be taken in part-time or full-time. So the classes are offered in the evenings and in some cases on weekends. So depending on the course, there are some courses that are offered on Saturday mornings or on Saturday afternoons. So this is a great program. Many of the students in my program, Social Innovation, are actually part-time students because they work during the day, whether they work for their nonprofit organization or their corporation or the like, or some other organization. And then in turn, they take classes at night. So this 11-course program, students, if you're on a part-time basis, can realistically complete the program in 5 semesters. So students who started last fall, in fall 2019, will be able to, if they stayed on track, which pretty much all of them have stayed on track, will be able to graduate in spring 2021. So I'll have my first set of graduates from our first cohort this coming spring.
Oh, that's exciting.
It is exciting. So, and the rates that we charge are relatively reasonable. I won't say what those rates are right now, but you can go to the website
Yeah.
to find out. But the rates are reasonable, and of course, students, if your organization does not provide tuition reimbursement, there are ways where we can give you some guidance regarding loans and other funds that may help to support your educational endeavors in that regard.
That's very good. Really excited about that by this program. Yeah. So I'm hoping that a lot of people will listen. And for those that are listening, if you are in an organization, if it's something that just, share this podcast out with other people that you think are interested. If you got a young person that is in school and is thinking about what are they going to do after, they don't really know, they want this is something they're passionate about, then they should totally look into get this master's program. And of course, you did say there was a certificate program. So
not for social innovation.
Oh, okay.
There are other certificate programs that we offer as a college, but
Okay.
right now we only have the master's degree in social innovation.
Okay.
It's a master's arts degree.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So look at that and keep that in your back of your head to share with people, because very exciting. There's a lot of problems that we have to solve, and a lot of motivated, enthusiastic, innovative, talented, young and old people that are going back to figure out best practices to implement these ideas and things that they have on their own and with their organizations through the program like we have here at Agnes Scott. So thank you again, Dr. Blockson, for joining in on my podcast and sharing your real exciting things that are going on. I'm so glad that I was introduced to you through, it's the Georgia University Entrepreneurship Initiative.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. That there's a lot of, and you think about it, only probably 5 to 7 years ago, did you start to see all these entrepreneurship programs popping up? When I went to school and got my MBA at University of Florida, there was no entrepreneurship program. I mean, you might have somebody talk about it within a class, but they were really training you to go get a job at a corporation. Right. And fast forward, I went back and was an entrepreneur in residence at University of Florida, and it was quite amazing, all of these initiatives. And then I looked around and it's like, Kennesaw was starting theirs, UGA was starting theirs, and they were just all over. There was hundreds of them. Now there's thousands of them. And you are blazing the trail right now with this social entrepreneurship program that I think you are really a leader of the pack, because it's something that people are waking up to realize that we can apply the same sort of principles that we do to just do these other things within this, and together we can solve these problems and have a blend of what we need from a social standpoint and what we need from a capitalist standpoint. And let's put these together for the benefit of our communities and our society.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, onwards and upwards. And if you're listening to the podcast, there's a little closer that you're going to hear right now. So thank you very much again. And looking forward to working with you on this stuff in the future. Okay.